wonderful. I am so very happy to have you here with us, Denise. We've been trying to pin you down for a little while, but I know you've had a lot going on, and you've just done an AGM virtually. So congrats. How was it?
Thank you very much, Wendy, for having me on your program. And it went beautifully. We got a lot of accolades. It was very successful.
Awesome.
3 hours, which is very short in our
Right. Yeah.
But it was beautifully executed.
Fantastic. COVID has taught us a lot about how resilient and agile we can be, but we'll talk about that a little later in the program. So why don't we just get straight into it and let us introduce you to the listening audience and our viewing audience as well. Tell us where your journey began and where you are today.
Well, my journey began way back in 1995 when I started as a management trainee at the Sugar Company of Jamaica. From there, I went to the Jamaica Cooperative Credit Union League, and I spent 12 years there. And then I went to other credit unions to work. And then in 2015, I actually came to the regional body, St. Kitts and Nevis, which I've been here for 5 years.
Fantastic. So you are a serial credit unionist.
Yes.
Very good. Very good. Very good. That sounds very familiar or very similar to what I would have done from banking in 94 until I landed here in 2018. You know, that was my breath of life, so to speak. So, well, congratulations. You've moved through very nicely. So Denise, in your various capacities, moving through the various ranks within the credit union or the industry specifically, what would you say have been your core guiding principles and success traits?
Well, that I would say is about my integrity, my accountability. I am very self-motivated. And I think the characteristics that I have, which are detail-oriented, I'm very strategic and analytical, probably too analytical, my friends would say. And outside of that, I am people-oriented. And I think because of the things that I love to do, so I love to plan things, events. I plan all my travels with my friends. So that's who I am, purpose-driven, goal-oriented.
Fantastic. In terms of how those traits, characteristics have helped you in staying the path and staying on the path to success, what would you say is the one that you have had to nurture the most and perhaps has contributed most significantly to where you are today?
Wow. Being patient.
Okay.
Yes, being patient.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that as a female leader, I'm lonely at the top sometimes. And you have to realize the different aspects that you have to deal with, the human side, the non-human side, all different sides, basically. Mm-hmm. But apart from that, I would say that because of my characteristics, I have achieved what I have achieved.
Because of the sum of all of what we've discussed, yes. These things have worked together well for you. You said something that I need to pause on for a second, because I think there's tremendous value if we explore it a little bit. And you said that it can get pretty lonely at the top. Help me to understand what you mean by that specifically.
Because a lot of your staff may not have been at that level. And as such, you have to realize that you're dealing with different individuals. And I think working at the sugar company helped me to deal with that. Mm-hmm. I had to work with, from the cane cutters, the director of finance. Mm-hmm. I was exposed to working with all different types. And that has molded me into who I am today.
Okay, fantastic. Do you think that it's difficult for you as a lady leader to have the more difficult conversations, is there a perception that as a female leader, as a lady leader, you should be more nurturing and steer clear of those difficult or sometimes uncomfortable decisions and discussions?
I would say that, yes, it can be very difficult, but I think once you apply yourself based on you as an individual, because what you look at is, so like, for example, when I'm faced with any challenge, I usually don't deal with it immediately unless required. So I take the time, I strategize, I look at what it is. I basically, depending on what it is, get all the facts. And then I usually not make that decision in a hasty way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I realize that it may not affect only me, but others.
Okay.
So I have to, and that's where the patience come in. So you dealing with people has been the hardest part of my job.
The human aspect or the human element is what often takes up the most the most dedicated focus. Absolutely. Okay. So then, as a female in industry, firstly, let me ask, do you believe that your experience is different from your male counterparts? And if the answer to that is yes, do you have any specific instances that come to mind that, perhaps someone who's listening in might be going through the same thing today or having the same thought process and might benefit from, viewing it from a different perspective or from someone who's been there?
Well, to be honest with you, my answer is no.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that the credit union movement is built on core principles of equity and democracy. So you find that there's no discrimination between male and female in the industry.
Fantastic.
That has been my experience.
That is awesome. That is absolutely awesome. I mean, there are not too many industries, generally speaking, where I think that a woman can stand so boldly and say that there is no discrimination and complete equity. And so if that exists for you, then that is, fantastic. So what then do you say are the traits that are respected or sought out as a female going in?
Well, what your characteristics, your individual experiences, your characteristics, your values as an individual. I have found, interestingly, my mother is in the credit union industry as well, and she has been in it for over 25 years.
Okay. Okay.
And she was in banking before. 20 years. So I have that as my example. So she was always at the top. She never, well, to be honest, she would be one of my mentors, and she has been one of my mentors, and having achieved so much. And I don't know, we've never really discussed it from a point of view of whether she was female or not. I don't think my accomplishments are because I'm female or not.
Right.
I'll be honest with you. My accomplishments is because of how I approach things and what drives me for success.
Okay.
So I can't say whether I was a male or whether I was a female if I was at the same point in my life, to be honest.
Right. Okay, great. So I think what I heard you saying is your mindset is really going to determine a lot of outcomes for you, or how you perceive the world to be treating you. And that has, it can be from a gender perspective, it can be from a mother perspective, it can be as a daughter. It's all how you perceive things that will determine, your reaction and response to them.
Totally agree.
Okay, all right. So you took us there. So let's talk a little bit about mentorship. And part of what we are working towards doing going forward is a mentorship program within the industry. Is that something that exists formally within the credit union movement?
I would say yes, because even while I worked, actually, with the exception of two bosses, they were all.
Okay, okay, lovely. And is there a formal mentorship program where you know that you have access to someone all the way on the top once a month that you can discuss your career objectives with?
The World Council level, we have a program called Global Women's Network.
Okay.
And I did speak about earlier about the credit union core principles of equity and democracy. So the Golden Women's Network support is there for everybody, and it has been established right across the world.
Fantastic. That sounds
So we have
really
different
nice.
sister societies.
Right.
There's one in Jamaica, Trinidad, and a couple others.
Okay.
So you can reach out to them to assist you, or they reach out to you.
Okay, that's fantastic. And I imagine there's information to be taken in.
Once you go on the World Council site, it's right there.
Lovely. Okay. So let's talk then more personally in terms of you've already spoken a little bit about who inspires you. Tell us a little bit about who specifically it is and why. What about this individual has made them, the person that you emulate or want to pattern after?
Well, there are three persons in my life. I have two dear friends and my mom. My father is at a different level. He may not give me the specific advice, but he definitely is my cheerleader.
Nice.
And they provide me with very good advice. They don't always take my side. And to be honest, I rely on them mostly because they keep me calm when I get upset.
Okay. Fantastic. So they're your source. They're your source, your sustenance. Lovely. You said your mom, your two very good friends and your mom. Tell us a little bit about your mom and what does she, apart from motherhood, obviously, and taking you into womanhood, what about her having, grown into it yourself? What about her would you say is, perhaps the most influential thing for you?
I thought for me that she ran the house. She was the lady of the house. As much as, history basically taught us that the males were providers of the family. In my lifetime, I don't know about, I can only speak about my own experience. And the male was the provider, but my mother was the one who handled the finances. I saw my mom giving my father weekly, his weekly sustenance, if you want to.
Really, yeah, she gave him an allowance. She gave him an allowance.
So I think that showed power and the fact that he believed in her that much that he did not take care of the finances. He may have gone out, yes, and earned it, and so did she, but she managed the money in the house. So I loved that, and I don't know if that is why I went in a similar direction as her.
Right.
But actually, no, I think we're just both built that way because my father is in the sciences and my brother is in the sciences.
Okay.
And I handle the finances just as good as she does, or probably better.
Yes, probably just a little bit better. But that said, thank you to mom and dad, because certainly you've raised a very strong woman, strong, independent thinker. So kudos to you for a job well done. And the industry is certainly benefiting from all that you put into her. So let's talk a little bit, Denise, about your leadership. And, within your career timeline, what is it that you are most proud of? One of your greatest accomplishments, and then conversely, walk us through, something that may have been an opportunity, a growth opportunity, a learning opportunity for you that perhaps someone else will benefit from.
Immediately that comes to mind would be the current headquarters that we are in the St. Kitts and Nevis office. This was a dream of the credit union movement, has been the dream for some time. And in 2018, when I took over as general manager, I had that task of the foundation was only laid for the building. And to know that I completed it in less than 2 years, a US $1.5 million project, that has been one of my greatest accomplishments for the Caribbean credit.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
So it's symbolic for me as an individual as well. And I think I'm lucky because I probably did project management, which helped me.
Okay.
And the experience, again, from sugar company days, dealing with the cane cutters, dealing with others, and having to talk to them in a certain way. And they thought this little lady, only 4 feet 11 and 3/4, and I love the 3/4. So I found that I had to be strong. I was, if you want to call it, probably considered as a male-dominated field, construction, but they realized that they couldn't step over. So the respect that I've gained has been tremendous.
Fantastic. So let's pause there for just a second, Denise, because, I think, as we speak to the younger generation now, and maybe not, maybe I shouldn't say the younger generation, but as we speak with persons, you move through your daily workloads, or you meet people as you go, people tend to have this desire for things now. Like they want to be where they want to be now. They want to be sitting in your chair and they want to be sitting in this chair. But then I hear you speak about coming from the sugar days, right? What are the lessons that you would have taken through from back then to now in terms of putting in the work to get to where you want to be?
Well, for one, you have to basically understand yourself as an individual. Know what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. I've taken basically my strengths and used them to my advantage. And I have nurtured my weaknesses to make them better. So preparation is key in anything that you're going to do, no matter what, whether it is setting up your own business, whatever it is. It is going to be key more so as a female. So you have to make sure you're prepared for anything, basically. That I think is paramount to your success. So I've never dealt with boards before 2 years ago. I may have interacted, but never reported to them directly. So that was a learning curve for me. But I thought that I've handled it very well in the last 2 years. I've had different bosses, if you want to call it that, or, and as such, you have to deal with different personalities. You try to ensure that you research your information, you anticipate particular questions that may come at you, but at the end of the day, you're prepared for it. So it's important as a female that you document your points, you expect questions, you defend your position with respect, no matter what environment you're in. Because you could have the opposite, females coming at you as well, because I've had that as well. So you just have to be prepared to deal with any and everything that it's possible that would come your way.
Absolutely. And I think, Denise, that is sound advice, not only in banking, finance, whatever aspect of life you're looking at, if you want to be a success at anything, one of the foundational practices is being prepared. Um, so I think that in itself is a very, very poignant piece of advice for anyone going into any aspect of life, that you need to know what it is that you're stepping into before you take that step. At least to have some basic information. There will be things that you will not anticipate coming because it may be branch new to you. But if you want to be successful, or if it is truly your passion, then you need to dedicate some of you to it so that it filters back to you. So thank you for sharing that. Let's talk a little bit about um, the perhaps ever elusive work-life balance that we talk so much about. And some people tell you, it doesn't exist. And other people tell you, yeah, I've got it down to a science. Where are you at with that, Denise? What is that for you?
Well, I definitely need relaxation time, whether it's going to be eating out, walking, watching sports, or traveling. So every 4 years, I have a group of friends. We travel the world. We have traveled the world.
Lovely. Wow. Okay.
We've been to over 50 countries
Wow.
in 20 years, less than 20 years. And so we plan. We plan way in advance, and my group loves sports. So we go to the Olympics, we plan for football, we go to World Cups, so we do include relaxation time, I can assure you.
So that's your work-life balance.
But I generally try not to take homework. Home is my sanctuary. And growing up, I never saw my parents take homework. My mother, yes, she was a manager in the bank, in the credit union, but she never took homework. Father, he was also a manager of a plant, and he never took homework. So I grew up not seeing that. So it's hard for me to take up my laptop and take it home. It's difficult. Of course, my preference is to work late and complete the task at hand, but I'm not saying that I don't. Obviously, based on the urgency of the situation, etc. But I try my best. I'm not exposed to that.
Wonderful. So I'm going to dig into your little business. You're just a tad. 50 countries. Wow, that sounds so exciting. That sounds really, really exciting. What is the most exotic country that you've been to?
Oh, Wendy, that is very difficult.
Okay, there have been a few.
Yeah, very difficult. The reason for that is that each country has its own experience and culture. And I can't say one is better than the other. Obviously, I'm a Caribbean person, and I will always have to have heat around me. I'm not someone for the cold at all. So you won't be seeing me saying, oh, I'm off to this place or that place that is very cold. No, that's not me. And we have a different life here in the Caribbean that is so different to the rest of the world. That always. But in my travels, growing up, I remember doing history and geography. And when we looked at Russia was spoken about like this far place that I could never reach. And to know that you could have visited there and it was not a problem. So that itself was one of my goals, to visit all the continents. I have 6, gone 6, so just the last one to go. But outside of that, that was very high on my list as priority, to know the world. And it is through those experiences that help you as well, exposed to them.
Lovely. That sounds like a dream. And certainly, it depends on what you value, right? So for you, living it out meant something to you. And for some, you talk about it, but you never really get around to doing it. You did it. Congratulations. Awesome. Talk about checking off a bucket list item. So keep living that dream. Speaking of dreams, we seem to be living in I don't know that I'll call it a dream, maybe a nightmare, COVID-19, 2020. What, if anything, has COVID-19 taught you about yourself as a leader?
Well, first of all, I don't think we're living in a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
I remember attending a webinar and the instructor asked persons what it is that COVID has exposed, to you. And they were writing everything down and all the answers coming in were so negative. And I was so turned off. And I just wrote what it did for me. COVID to me was cleaning the environment. That is what it has meant for me. Just taking a stop in life and just cleaning everything around you. There are no planes. At one point, there were no cars on the road. The beaches are returning to their normal state that they were in before. The birds, so I've not looked at it negatively at all. I would say that it has helped me to be more flexible, quick thinking, quicker than before, and adaptable. Those are the things that I would say that I've learned, how quickly we could have just, one of the biggest things for the organization was that we were not having our annual conference, which is our major income earner.
Right.
So that got canceled. So I had to now turn to say, okay, what am I going to do to ensure that this company stays afloat and realizes a profit at the end of the year? So we just put on our thinking caps and just turn the wheels as quickly as possible that we could.
Keep moving. Fantastic. You are so very correct. And I think that one of the traits of a true leader is being able to look at a circumstance for what it is and find something positive or some way to get past what could otherwise turn out to be negative. And you're right, COVID was or has been a period of cleansing. And I remember for me, I started walking again, which is something I had stopped doing a long time ago. So it was really very fulfilling during that period to meditate and to eat right. That didn't last very long. But, we keep moving, and that's the important thing, right? So again, mindset and how you decide to look at things is what's going to determine the outcomes for you as well, right? So thank you so much for sharing that with us, Denise. Let's dig again into your personal, super personal space. What am I going to find you doing on a Saturday morning at 10 o'clock?
I'm either going to be in bed or cooking breakfast.
Okay, lovely. So you sleep in on a Saturday. Is that what your normal work days start at? That's not it.
No.
So what does your normal work day look like? What time do you start on a morning? What time do you get into office?
I get into office by 8 o'clock.
Right.
But prior to that, I get up every morning and I fix my breakfast. And a big breakfast, Jamaicans.
Yes.
And saltfish and my boiled bananas, and I fix that.
Really?
Yes.
Nice.
I am an eater.
You're a foodie. You're a foodie. Yeah, I remember my time in Jamaica, and yes, ackee and saltfish is one of my favorite dishes as well. So there was a chef at one of the branches where I used to work, and once I was in branch, she would actually make it for me fresh every single day.
Wow.
So can I tell you, I love my time in Jamaica. But I guess the reason why I really wanted to draw that differentiation is to say that we do need to take a break sometimes, that we do need to slow ourselves down. And if it is that you can find one day in the week as a lady leader, where you wear so many different hats, that it really is important to be able to set some time aside to recharge, right? because you
Yes.
go through the motions every single day. So how important it is that for you, Denise, to be able to say, this is my time? And do the people in your life understand and respect when you put those boundaries in place?
Surprisingly, everyone does.
Okay. Okay.
I have no complaints there. They
Right.
know,
Right.
and they know when I cut off and when I recharge.
Right. And is it something that you needed to communicate, or is it you like did they understand your routine already existed? How was that for you? I know some people struggle with it, right? Some ladies struggle with being able to say, I really need some time for myself. I need to have a minute for Wendy. So is it for you, was that an easy process, or is that just, the natural normal course for you?
It was the natural normal course because I've always embedded it in my daily life.
Right. Okay. All right. So tell me now, what about your teams? How do you ensure that they remain empowered and on that track of success? How do you encourage and empower your own teams?
Well, actually, we discuss our annual strategies, our tactical plans, and we have weekly meetings, my entire staff. So, and where every week, a different staff member actually chairs the staff meeting, and it's
Okay.
a rotational basis. So
Okay.
for the calendar, you have each week and who is responsible to chair that meeting, and it's in their meeting calendar, and they come and we have the receptionist who actually updates every week what comes out of the meeting. So every solitary soul can see where everybody is at. And
Mhm.
this philosophy that if God forbid something happens, the company continues the next day. And as such, no one in here should be able to say, oh, did not know what was happening with X or Y. So I always say to them that anything can happen to any one of us. And the fact is that the company is not going to shut down. It's going to continue to operate.
Mhm.
You should be able to take it no matter who drops out. So that's my belief.
Mhm.
That
Fantastic.
it has to be inclusive.
It has
And
absolutely
inclusive.
has to be inclusive, but it sounds like communication is a big part of what you do with your team.
Yes.
Okay. And succession planning. So in as much as you say that anyone should be able to pick up and run with it, I would imagine that there is a formal succession strategy that you employ within the institution as well.
Yes.
Okay.
They're
Um,
all groomed.
there, everyone is groomed to be the next leader. That's fantastic. That's not something that you often that you often hear. So that is fantastic. So what sort of training calendar do you look like? Is it a very robust calendar? Is it cross training schedules? What does that look like?
Well, to be honest with you, it is cross training because leadership is different aspects and it has to do with a lot with experience.
Mhm.
Yes, you may go to school, you get the bachelor's, you get the master's, you get the this, and you go and you do the certificate courses, etc. That's keeping yourself abreast of what's happening. But applying it is going to be the success aspect of it. And
Mhm.
as such, being put into that sphere is going to be important.
Okay.
I
Okay.
always say that it is the experience that helps you to grow.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And that is fantastic. Within your organization, if you are able to manage daily workloads, customer expectation, and manage a cross-training calendar, that is perhaps one of the most valuable ways of ensuring that everyone is coming along together. But we do know that it's something that takes very careful planning because everyone does have their work schedule planned. And the wider organizational goals have to be met at the end of the day, right?
Correct.
So what does your process look like? And do you have an intermediary period where you will assess everyone for accountability and make sure that, they're staying on track?
I wouldn't, to be honest with you, we're almost assessed daily. I don't wait until something happens or 3 months or 6 months to address an issue or to say to someone, you know, I've seen an improvement, or I don't wait till it happens on paper or a scheduled time. I look at my staff and my team and I address everything that I need to address, whether it be weekly, whether it be daily. I praise when praise needs to be done. And I also, as they tell, we had a conversation, my staff said to me, I told them I count to 10 when I have to deal with a situation with them. They told me they count to 40.
Yes, 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 yes.
So I just laughed when I heard them. I was like, oh my gosh. And am I that terrible? They're like, no, boss, no, just saying that, but they appreciate it at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I like to see people grow. So having come here for the last 2 years, I have definitely seen that.
That is fantastic. And that is you creating your own legacy, particularly working in a country away from home base, from home country. How has that transition been for you? Is it something that you had always planned on doing? Did you think that it was necessary for your own growth? Okay. I see you shaking your head. They can't see that, but I see her. So let's hand over that. So what was that like for you?
Can I be honest? I never saw that.
Okay.
I always lived and worked in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
So this was my first time moving away from home. My mother was the one who encouraged me, and another female leader, actually, in the credit union movement. And I said, okay. My mom came with me when I made the move.
Mm.
And it was pretty easy, interestingly. And I guess because the country is so small. So that had a lot to do with it. So it was easy to get around. And
Right.
But then I knew a few persons before coming here who helped me to settle in. And that helped a lot. Just 3 probably. It's not a lot, but I would say that it was different. It was very different because even when I went to University of the West Indies in Mona, I interacted mostly with Caribbean people when I did my master's rather than when I did my bachelor's. My bachelor's was mostly Jamaicans. My interaction was with. So when I did the master's, we had it was master's in international business, and the class was really international.
Mm-hmm.
We had, I don't know if it was deliberate, but we had probably everybody from each country in the class.
Okay.
So I got to experience that, and that was my real interaction with the Caribbean, to be honest, at that time.
Okay, all right. So you transitioned 2 years ago. And I think that in the environment that we live in now with freedom of movement and everybody's looking for the next great opportunity, which, is not always going to be found at home. What advice would you give to young ladies or anyone in general, really, who's looking at following their dream if it takes them outside of their comfort zone?
Preparation, it goes right back to that. I spoke about it earlier. Preparation is key. So I would say go after it. The world is out there to receive any and everyone. Do your research.
Mhm.
Just be prepared for anything. I felt that I was prepared for the move. I was a little bit timid in the
Right.
early days, but once I got here, I melded, basically, got in and just did what I had to do. I observed what was happening around me, new environment, new work environment, as well as living environment. So I had to do my research. I had to know how to work with different cultures, because in Jamaica, I work among Jamaicans.
Mhm.
Here in my office, I had somebody from Barbados, I had Haitians, I had Dominicans. So that exposure helped me in a different phase of my life.
Okay, great. I love that. So I think, if I were to try to summarize Denise's experience, I would say be curious. If your dream is taking you on a path that you didn't anticipate being part of your journey, be prepared, be bold, and take the step, right? And more as we have these discussions and we get to know our leaders, we understand that a lot of times, for you to truly experience your own growth and to see what you're capable of beyond what is beyond before you, you actually need to get very, very comfortable with doing something that's completely uncomfortable and succeed at it. You know, you're not going to break it, that's for sure. You're not going to break it. So step into it and give it a shot. So, Denise, as we wind down, let me ask you, and it's been about 45 minutes that we've been speaking, believe it or not.
That long?
You know what they say, the old adage says, time flies when you're having fun. What is the one bit of advice that you would want to leave to upcoming leaders to really resonate with them? I know you spoke about a lot of good things because I have like so many notes. I was taking copious notes as we were speaking. But what is the essence of Denise that you would want to leave young leaders, the next generation with?
Be yourself. Be yourself in a very respectable way. I would say you must be strong. Cry if you need to cry. Nothing is wrong with that. Shout if you need to shout, but be yourself. Be able to take criticisms. Ensure that you keep yourself knowledgeable, especially in the environment that you're in, the work environment you're in, and just be you.
Fantastic. Be authentic. And that is, I think that's beyond just the career. Certainly, it's just about being comfortable in your own space in our world, in our time, right? There's nothing better that you can leave behind than the truest form of yourself. Everyone is unique. Everyone has unique strengths. And like Denise said, it's really, really important to know your strengths. And it's also equally important, if not more so important, to be authentic about your weaknesses, because that's what makes us who we are. Not succumbing to the weaknesses or not just saying, no, I can't do it. Denise put it very well when she said she nurtured her weaknesses to turn them into something complete, to transform them. And she transformed them into new strengths. And we are perfectly capable of doing that as well. So Denise, just one other question, because you said it right there at the end. I cannot get enough. I can't get enough. I built in an extra 15 minutes for these moments. And it's the emotional self, right? It's what us girls are known to do. We cry, we shout, we do scream, and then we get our nails done and come back looking fabulous the next day, right?
Definitely.
That's what we do. So Denise said, if you need to cry, cry it out, and if you need to shout, shout it out, and if you need to scream, scream about it. But we know, though, that in the workplace there's no crying, no shouting, and no screaming. So how do you manage that delicate balance of being female and all of those things that are part of who we are, and being present in our careers and professional, and making sure that we are not being seen as overly emotional at the workplace? And that's my final question, I think.
Wendy, to be honest, it goes right back to my dear friends. Leaning on them, having that emotional support is very important in your life. Being able to talk about it, not necessarily sharing full details as it's company business, but just saying, I need a break.
Mm-hmm.
I get up, I have lunch in the office, and I just go downstairs and I walk around the property and I come right back. So there are different ways of dealing with things when they come up on you. And yes, you may not cry, you may not be able to cry there and stuff, but you find a way. You find a way. Lean on your support. You can't do it alone. So you definitely need support. You definitely need emotional support when you are at various stages of your leadership.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know I said I wasn't going to ask another question, but you guys heard it. She did it, so we have no choice. We do have to get that one last little bit, I promise, out. So you started by saying at some point that it can be lonely at the top, and then you spoke about having a really strong support system, and they can both exist together, right?
They can.
I think as leaders, generally, it's really important to know who's in your corner and to choose very, very wisely between your associates, your friends, um, and the people that you will interact with on a day-to-day basis. And Denise was very right in saying you also have to be able to filter the information that you share, right? So Denise, how do you determine who your real friends are, who your fans are, and who your cheerleaders are? Because there's a difference in every one of those categories, right?
You're supposed to be closing with.
I know. Well, stop it. Stop it. You're making too good. The answers are too good. I'm kidding. This is fantastic, but this is the interaction that we're longing for, right?
I believe that over time, it will come to you naturally. Those friends that I have, there were 20 years of friendship, and the genuineness that's there is remarkable. The support that's there is even more sustainable for me. And I have lost maybe one or two friends. Now, I'm not being conceited or anything, but when you get to know me, you will realize that I'm simple and I get along with. And when you don't get along with me, I say it's something wrong with you, not with me.
She's being authentic. What can I say?
So, and I think that's what my friends know about me. They know how they can rely on me, and I know how I can rely on them. And I am able to, and my mom, back to my mom, and my dad, I don't want to leave out my dad because my dad is very precious to me. As I said, he's my cheerleader. And
There you go.
Who are your cheerleaders? And my brother. So it's just the four of us in my family. So, and I lean on him for other things. So that's where my mental health is.
Yes, steeped. Yes.
So, and we have a routine. As much as my friends are based back in Jamaica, we have a routine where on the way to work, we would call each other and we discuss and we chat and we catch up on everything. And you'd be so surprised that feeling when you come into the office after being able to just release.
Yes.
And so again, it goes back to the emotional support and ensuring that you have those persons that you can lean on and you can trust. But you're gonna have probably hiccups along the way, and you must look at all of them as learning. That's about it, I would say, because I have had a few hiccups while here. So I just move along, as I told you.
You keep trucking. That's what you do. You keep trucking. Okay, so I promised that would have been my last question, and I think I'm reluctantly saying that, I I acquiesce that we're done. Denise, thank you so much for allowing us to dig into your personal space just a little bit. This really has been a powerhouse discussion with a powerhouse little lady at 4'11" and 3/4, right? Did I get it right?
Right. Yes, 3/4. Don't leave it off.
I'm 5'2.5", and the half is extremely important. So I do understand how important those figures are to us little ladies. But really and truly, I really want to say a thank you for sharing with us so much and so openly this afternoon, and for allowing me to just keep going and going and going. These are the conversations that I think our young generation really need to hear. You mentioned at the end there about the hiccups, and I couldn't go into it because I promised that that was my last question two last promises ago. But I say that to say that the road to success is not potholes, and it's not going to be a straight road. I always say that you will come to that corner in your life, which will probably be the defining moment. And let me go to Denise's key principles here because I'm going to find it. And if you are motivated, and if you are strategic, and if you are patient, and if you're authentic, um, those corners in the road will only help to bring out the strengths that already exist within yourself. And so it really is, and she said this as well, it's important to know and understand yourself in order to keep trucking, to keep moving, to keep going forward. So Denise, I think I summarized pretty nicely some of those things that define who you are as a leader. I certainly hope I did you some justice there. And
Yes,
I
you
really
did. You were really listening, huh?
I was really listening. I mean, this lady leader tremendous passion of mine. I think that there are so many wonderful things happening. Like I said in another episode that I'm sure you've listened to, I can't wait to get to do this as well with our male counterparts because our stories are all exceptionally unique but beautifully inspiring and motivating. So I'm really happy to have an opportunity to bring our authentic leaders to you in a very comfortable and casual way, and probably a little zany every now and again, but that's okay. So Denise, thank you again. Your time has been very precious, and I hope it has meant as much to you as it has to us here at the CAB to have you on today.
Yes, it has been a tremendous experience for me. Thank you very much, Wendy, for having me.
Great, great. Thank you. Take care. We'll talk soon.
Same here.
Okay, Denise. So we're off recording. I think
Okay.
maybe Ray has stepped away because I see she's still on, but I just wanted the break so I could say.